You've heard this man's voice more times than you probably realize. It taught you how words fit together.
I got Ann Button or
It taught you how laws are made.
I'm just a bill.
Who is he and why do I admire this guy so much? I'll tell you. Let's get into it. Greetings and salutations, I'm PopCultureKen, and because knowledge is power, this is the story behind the signature of jazz trumpeter, actor, and one of the most recognizable, unrecognized voices of the 20th century, Jack Sheldon. If you grew up in the 1970s, Jack Sheldon helped raise you. He was the voice behind some of the most iconic Schoolhouse Rock characters of all time, singing Conjunction Junction and giving us I'm Just a Bill. Those songs are burned into Gen X DNA. They're brilliantly catchy, smart, funny, and completely unforgettable. But here's the thing. That voice wasn't the superhero. It was the sidekick. In 1931, a baby named Beryl Sheldon was born. But at just 2 years old, he renamed himself Jack after a radio adventure series called Jack Armstrong, the All-American Boy. His mother ran the Jen Lovin Swimming School, which taught swimming to Hollywood entertainers and their children. So Jack grew up surrounded by performers from the get-go. As a kid, he became a champion swimmer and an exhibition diver, learning discipline below the water and showmanship above it. What's cool about that, at least I think so, is that long before he ever even picked up a trumpet, he was already learning breath control, timing, and how to hold an audience. And then one day, everything changed. Jack heard a jazz record his mom brought home called The Sugar Blues by Clyde McCoy. That was it. That's all it took. And little Jack suddenly knew what he wanted to do for the rest of his life, and he was hooked. He didn't even own a trumpet yet, so he built one out of the next best thing. Tinker Toys, just so he could pretend to play until he could get his hands on the real thing. And once he did, Jack practiced relentlessly. Not for applause or attention, but because he wanted to get better, and that mindset never left him. As his playing improved, Jack began picking up gigs with some of the biggest names around, eventually landing work with big band legend Benny Goodman. After one particular performance, Goodman pulled Jack aside and gave him a piece of advice that changed everything once again. Goodman told him, "Sing it out." Jack was already making his trumpet sing in a way that impressed the king of swing, but what Goodman picked up on was that the same mouth bringing life to all those notes could probably sing just as well. And just like that, Jack discovered his second gift. He could sing. That realization would go on to not only change the course of his life, but also ours. Jack Sheldon was a consummate artist. He practiced all the time, and even after performances that blew everyone in attendance away, he could be found backstage harshly criticizing his own work. Jack became a member of the band on The Merv Griffin Show, where audiences fell in love not only with his trumpet playing, but also his outlandish personality as he bantered back and forth with Merv. He loved being funny and pushing boundaries and going over the line with his jokes, much to the chagrin of Merv and the censors at the time.
Well, Merv, these uniforms, it gets worse and
Where's
worse.
your belt?
I couldn't afford a belt.
I'm supposed to be buying the band belts now? Stand up, Chris. Were you ever that size?
No, I have a lot more in my jeans than Chris.
After the tapings were done, Jack would head outside, stand on the street, and play for tips. Mostly to the surprise of everyone around him. Why? Well, because as he put it, that was the only time he felt like he was playing for himself. He recorded albums with the biggest names in the business, and not because somebody was assigning session players. He was requested by name by Sammy Davis Jr., by Tony Bennett, by Lena Horne, Tom Waits, and Henry Mancini, just to name a few. In jazz, there's an unspoken rule. The best players don't need introductions, and Jack Sheldon never needed one. In 1965, a movie starring Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton called The Sandpiper hit theaters, and critics absolutely hated it. But not the theme song, which was called The Shadow of Your Smile and was written by a guy named Johnny Mandel. It won the Oscar for Best Original Song and later won Song of the Year at the Grammys. And the thing everyone loved about it? The trumpet that carried the whole song. Want to guess who played that trumpet? In the early 1970s, Jack was asked if he wanted to be part of the second season of a series of educational shorts for kids called Schoolhouse Rock. Joining another jazz lesson. Joining another jazz lesson. Damn, Ken. Joining another jazz lesson, Bob Duro, Jack's voice endeared himself to an entire new generation of fans, most of whom never learned his name. Not only did he give us Conjunction Junction and I'm Just a Bill, but he also sang Rufus Xavier Sarsaparilla.
Now I have a friend named Rufus Xavier Sarsaparilla, and I could say that Rufus found a kangaroo that followed Rufus home, and now that kangaroo belongs to Rufus Xavier Sarsaparilla.
Them Not So Dry Bones.
Right now there's a skeleton locked up inside of you.
The Body Machine.
Which contains some very important kinds of food energy for your body. The chicken gives you protein, bread, carbohydrate, mayonnaise, fat, and the lettuce has vitamins plus cellulose or roughage.
And contributed to Mother Necessity.
Alexander Graham Bell. Thank you, Alexander, for the phone. I'd never get a date, I'd never get a job unless I had a telephone. Mother necessity.
So now you know the name behind that voice you grew up with. That's Jack Sheldon. I eventually managed to get my hand on his signature on an index card after a lengthy search. I was hoping to get Jack to sign this 8x10 I already had that was signed originally by Bob Duro, but sadly it never made its way back to me after I mailed it off to him. That dual signed photo would have had a place of honor in my home. Oh man. Instead, it vanished into the ether, and all I have left is this photo I took before sending it off. Hey, that's autograph collecting, and those are the risks you take. But check out this piece I made with the signed card. There we go. So, of course, knowing that he was the consummate professional with his trumpet, I had to go with a picture of him with a trumpet. The little nameplate, I actually hunted down a font that looks like Schoolhouse Rock to put his name on there. And then, of course, added the small touches of my two favorite characters he ever did. The conductor from Conjunction Junction and Bill, the infamous Bill. And then there's the signature. God, I wish I could have gotten it on that 8x10 though. But yeah, it's fun. This one doesn't draw as many people over immediately because they see Jack and just think, oh, a musician. But then when they see the little tiny Schoolhouse Rock stuff, they're like, hold on, that's the guy that did it? Yes, that's the guy that did it. So cool. I love this piece. Jack passed away in late 2019 at the age of 88. To our generation, he'll always be that voice that taught us how Bill became a law. But behind that voice was an absolute craftsman, a musician who spent his entire life chasing perfection. And as far as I'm concerned, he reached a different kind of perfection with his contributions to Gen X through Schoolhouse Rock. Thank you, Jack. You were incredible. No ands, buts, or ors about it. I'm PopCultureKen. This has been my story behind the signature of legendary trumpeter and Schoolhouse Rock icon, Jack Sheldon. Take care, have a good one, and good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are. Thanks for hanging out with me today. If you'd like to explore more stories behind the signatures in my collection, dive into the playlist over to the right, and I'll see you there. Otherwise, just kick back and let YouTube do its thing. Either way, the stories don't stop here.